You know what's interesting about trauma? So I'm writing court reports at the moment on parenting, and it's part of one of the aspects of what I do for a living. Um, and one of the big things that we do when we're doing assessments of this type is we look at the family history. And there's a certain way that you can ask questions, a certain interview style that you can have that helps you to understand, it helps you to hear not just what people are telling you, but also informs you in terms of like what their experience actually might have been. And it always makes me think about trauma and this idea around the word trauma, and how trauma semantically is viewed as like a traumatic thing, right? So people will say, "Oh my God, that was so traumatic," and it means this big catastrophic event that happened that traumatized you. Like when you think about PTSD, you think about soldiers going off to war or children who have had their house bombed and stuff like that. But actually, trauma isn't really like that. Trauma is anything, really, anything that we've experienced that has caused our body to go into a state of fight or flight, that's caused our nervous system to go into like a hyperactive mode and be alert for the same threat, essentially. And it's funny when you talk to people about their childhoods that people so often don't see the trauma. And I don't say that from a patronizing point of view, like I know more than people, because I'm really not into that kind of like psychoanalytical type of therapy where you tell me your problems and then I interpret it for you and tell you what your problem is or what you need to fix it. I mean, as in, people don't see their trauma because your childhood is so normal to you. Your childhood is like so standard that it's just what it was, right? So people often don't see the ways in which their attachments and how they connect to other people, how they attach to other people, has been like severely damaged and fractured in a massive way. And then they just go out and operate in the world like it's normal, you know? Like when I listen to parents talk about the way that they were brought up and how much of that is minimized and like and normalized for them, it just, I find it fascinating. And I find it fascinating that often people are blindsided, not blindsided, they're blinkered, sorry, from, and blindsided, I guess, by the impact of it, but they're blinkered from being able to see what it is. And I really want people to try and, um, what I want to try and expose and to make people more comfortable with understanding is that everybody is traumatized in some way or another. And actually, that trauma is really necessary because it's the trauma that we experienced from our parents that caused our character to grow the way that it has, you know, so that caused us to become the person that we are. So eventually, hopefully, if you have enough awareness and you work on it enough, you can get to a point where actually you're grateful for all of the stuff that happened in life. But I want people to understand that trauma isn't this big thing that other people experience, that actually we all experienced it. And, you know, sometimes it comes in the form of like that drip form where it's just constant, just like this undercurrent of unease that we've had in our family that maybe nobody spoke about, that nobody addressed, but as a child, you sort of knew it was there. And because of that, you've kind of grown up not really knowing how to trust yourself, not knowing how to trust your intuition, not knowing how to trust your body. Like when things feel unsafe and then you find yourself in unsafe situations. Or sometimes, people can have amazing childhoods and then just have this one thing that happens, like, you know, they didn't get invited to that birthday party, or their brother said that they couldn't play with their friends, and that was massively traumatic. And sometimes actually that could be more traumatic than people who live in, or what I've seen, children that live in really abusive situations, because actually they're kind of used to that and they've built up a tolerance, like a resistance. They're slightly immune to it. Not that that kind of dilutes it or lessens the experience, because that has its own issues anyway. But anyway, I'm just rambling. I think mainly what I really want to do is I want people to be able to identify and acknowledge and accept that within their own life there were things that maybe weren't normal, that weren't healthy, and those things have subconsciously and invariably and like inherently, like deep down, affected the way that they interact with the world. So I want to stop people associating this word trauma with big scary things, big threats, massive catastrophic events, and understand actually that we've all experienced trauma, and that's okay. And in a lot of ways it's good because it's made you who you are. But unless you're aware of some of the telltale signs of it, you can so easily just be in what we call generational trauma, which is like a cycle where you just inflict the same thing on your kids. Um, so yeah, I'm going to be doing a series about trauma and what that is and how that shows up, because I think it's really an important thing that people don't talk about enough, and that people really don't have that much of an understanding of, and people feel like it's something that happened to someone else and not them. So yeah, that's what I want to say.